Okay, welcome to Blithe Spirit by No Coward.
I'm Aria. I'm assistant director. Sam out. She's the director. Before we start, I want to thank everyone who helped make the show possible, our GoFundMe donors, anyone who donated stuff to the set, Arts at Michigan, and CSG.
And before we start, we're just going to go over some quick Keen Theater rules. No food or beverages are allowed in the house. And also no flash photography, please. It scares the actors. 1940, they had flash photography, never mind. Other thing.
There will be two intermissions, a 5-minute intermission for Act 2, and then a 10-minute intermission for Act 3.
That is all we have to say. We hope you enjoy the show.
That's right, Edith. Yes. Now you better touch the ice box. Yes. Did you manage to get all the ice into those little tin trays? Yes. I have a bit of a struggle though, but it's all right. And you filled the little trays up again with water? Yes. Very good, Edith. You're making giant strides. Yes. Madam Arcadi, Mrs. Bradman, and I will have our coffee in here after dinner, and Mr. Conrad and Dr. Bradman will have theirs in the dining room. Is that quite clear? Yes. And when you're serving dinner, Edith, try to do it calmly and methodically. Yes. As you're not in the Navy, it is unnecessary to do everything at the double. Very good, ma'am. Now go and touch the ice. Yes. Not at a run, Edith. Yes.
No sign of the advancing hordes?
Not yet.
No ice!
It's coming. I've been trying to discourage Edith from being quite so fleet of foot. You mustn't mind if everything's a little slow motion tonight.
I shall welcome it. The last few days have been extremely agitating. What do you suppose induced Agnes to go off and get married?
The reason was becoming increasingly obvious, dear.
Yes, but in these days she could have popped into the cottage hospital, had it, and popped out again.
Her social life would have been seriously undermined.
We must keep Edith in the house more.
That's right, Edith.
Yes. I left my cigarette case on my dressing room table. Would you get it for me?
Yes.
No.
You took her by surprise.
Dry martini, I think, don't you?
Yes, dear. I expect Madame Arcadi will want something a little bit sweeter, though.
We'll have this one for ourselves, anyhow.
Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
I have a feeling this evening's going to be awful.
It'll probably be funny, but not awful.
You must promise not to catch my eye. If I giggle, and I'm very likely to, it will ruin everything.
You mustn't. You must be completely serious, if not a little intense. We can't hurt the old hero's feelings after all.
But why the Bradmans, dear? He's as skeptical as we are. He'll probably say the most awful things.
I've warned him. We had to have more than 3 people, and it couldn't be the vicar and his wife because A, they're dreary, and B, they wouldn't have approved at all. It had to be the Bradmans. Thank you, Edith.
Yes, sir.
Had a run, Edith.
Yes, sir.
We might want to make her walk about with a book on their head, like they do in deportment lessons. Here, try this.
Lovely. Dry as a bow.
To the unseen.
I must say, that's a wonderful title.
If all goes well tonight, I shall start first thing in the morning.
How extraordinary it is.
What?
I don't know, do you write at the beginning of something? It gives one an odd feeling.
Do you remember how I got the idea for The Light Goes Out?
Suddenly seeing that haggard, rattled old woman in the hotel with the earrings. Of course I remember. We stayed up half the night talking about it.
She certainly came in very handy. Now, I wonder who she was.
And if she ever knew, I mean ever recognized that description of herself. Poor thing, here's to her anyhow.
Have another?
Charlie, they're most awfully strong.
Never mind.
You still Vera, to be a help to you. When you were thinking of something out, I knew.
Sometimes, when she concentrated. But she didn't concentrate very often.
I do wish I'd known her.
I wonder if you would have liked her.
I'm sure I should have liked her. As you talk of her, she sounds enchanting. Yes, I'm sure I should have liked her because, you know, I've never for an instant felt in the least jealous of her. That's a good sign.
Poor Elvira.
still hurt when you think of her?
No, not really. Sometimes I almost wish it did. I do feel rather guilty.
I wonder if I died before you grow tired of me, if you'd forget me so soon.
What a horrible thing to say.
No, I think it's interesting.
Well, to begin with, I haven't forgotten Elvira. I remember her very distinctly indeed. I remember how fascinating she was and how maddening. I remember her gay charm when she got her way over something and her extreme acidity when she didn't. I remember how badly she played all games and how cross she got when she didn't win. I remember her physical attractiveness, which was tremendous, and her moral integrity, which was nil.
I can't remember something that was nil.
I remember how morally untidy she was.
Was she more physically attractive than I?
That is a very tiresome question, dear, that fully deserves the wrong answer.
You really are very sweet.
Sorry, dear.
A little naive, too.
Why?
Because you imagine that I should mind about Elvira being more physically attractive than I am.
I thought any woman should mind if it were true. Or perhaps my view of female psychology is old-fashioned.
Not old-fashioned, darling, just a bit didactic.
How do you mean?
It's didactic to attribute to one type the defects of another type. For instance, because you know perfectly well that Elvira would mind terribly if you found another woman more attractive than she was, it doesn't necessarily follow that I should. Elvira was a more physical person than I am certain of that. It's all a question of degree.
I love you, my love.
I know you do, but not the wildest stretch of imagination could describe it as the first fine careless rapture.
Would you like it to be?
Good God, no.
Wasn't that a shade too vehement?
We're neither of us adolescent, Charles. We neither of us led exactly prim lives, have we? And we've both been married before. Careless rapture at this stage would be incongruous and embarrassing.
I hope I haven't been in any way of disappointment, dear.
Don't be so idiotic.
After all, your first husband was a great deal older than you, wasn't he? I would hate to think that you missed out along the way.
There are moments, Charles, when you go too far.
Sorry, dear.
As far as waspish female psychology goes, there's a rather strong vein of it in you.
I've heard the same said about Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar is neither here nor there.
He may be for all we know. We'll ask Madame Arcadi.
You're very irritating when you're trying to be witty at all costs, you know. Almost supercilious.
That's exactly what Elvira used to say.
I'm not at all surprised. I never imagined, physically triumphant as she was, that she was entirely lacking in perception.
Darling Ruth,
There you go again.
as I mentioned before, I love you.
Poor Elvira.
Did that light, comradely kiss mollify you at all?
You're very annoying, you know you are. When I said poor Elvira, it came from the heart. You must have bewildered her so horribly.
Don't I ever bewilder you at all?
Never for an instant. I know every trick.
Well, then I say we must get a divorce immediately.
Put my glass down. There's darling.
Still, it's a pity that she died so young. She certainly had a great talent for living.
Poor Elvira.
That remark is getting monotonous.
Poor Charles, then.
That's better.
And later on, poor Ruth, I expect.
You have no faith. You really ought to have a little faith.
I shall strain every nerve.
A life without faith is an arid business.
How beautifully you put things, dear.
I aim to please.
If I died, I wonder how long it would be before you married again.
You won't die. You're not the dying sort.
Neither was Elvira.
Oh, yes, she was. Now that I look back on it, she had a certain ethereal, not quite of this world quality. Nobody would call you even remotely ethereal.
Nonsense. She was of the earth.
Well, she is now, anyhow.
No, that's the kind of observation that shocks people.
It's discouraging to think how many people are shocked by honesty and how few by deceit.
Write that one down, you might forget it.
You underrate me.
Anyhow, it was a question of bad taste more than honesty.
I was devoted to Elvira. We were married for 5 years. She died. I missed her very much. That was 7 years ago. I have now, with your help, my love, arisen above the whole thing.
Admirable. But if tragedy should darken our lives, I still say, with prophetic foreboding, poor Ruth.
That's probably the Bradmans.
It might be Madame Arcadi.
no, she'll come on her bicycle. She goes everywhere on her bicycle.
Really is very spirited of the old girl.
Shall I go, or shall we let Edith have her fling?
Wait a minute and see what happens.
Perhaps she didn't hear.
She's probably on one knee in a pre-sprinting position, waiting for Cook to open the kitchen door.
There now.
Dr. and Mrs. Bradman. Bradman.
We're not late, are we? I only got back from the hospital half an hour ago.
No, Madame Arcadi isn't here yet.
Oh, that must have been her we saw coming down the hill. I said I thought it was.
But she won't be long. I'm so glad you were able to come.
Oh, I've been looking forward to it. I'm really quite excited.
I guarantee that Violet will be good. I made her promise.
There wasn't any need. I'm absolutely thrilled. I've only seen Madame Arcadi 2 or 3 times in the village. I mean, I've never seen her do anything peculiar, if you know what I mean.
A dry martini?
By all means.
She certainly is a very strange woman. It wasn't until a chance remark of the vicar's upon seeing her on a knoll on Midsummer's Eve dressed in some sort of robes that I realized she was psychic at all. Then I began to make inquiries, and sure enough, she's been a professional in London for years.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, to think of anyone doing it as a profession.
I do believe it's very lucrative.
Do you believe in Mrs. Condamine? Do you think there's anything really genuine about it at all?
I'm afraid not. But I do think it's interesting how easily people allow themselves to be deceived.
But she must believe in it, mustn't she? Or is the whole business a fake?
I suspect the worst. A real professional charlatan. Or at least that's what I'm hoping for anyhow. The character I'm writing for my story is a complete imposter. It's one of the most important factors of the whole book.
What exactly are you hoping to get out of her?
Oh, jargon, principally, a few tricks of the trade. I haven't been to a seance in years. I want to refresh my memory.
Then it's not entirely new to you.
Oh, no. My aunt used to come over and stay with us when I was younger. She fancied herself a medium and would go off into the most elaborate trances after dinner. My mother was fascinated by it.
Was she convinced?
Heavens, no. She just naturally disliked my aunt and loved making a fool of her.
I gather there are never any tangible results.
Oh, sometimes she didn't do so badly. Oh, one particular night, we were all sitting in the pitch dark and my mother was playing shamanade on the piano. All of a sudden, my aunt gives a most shrill scream and says she sees a small black dog by my chair. We turn on the lights and sure enough, there it is.
Oh, extraordinary.
It was obviously a stray that had come in from the street, but I must say I tip my hat to my aunt for producing it, or rather for utilizing it. Even my mother was a bit shaken.
What happened to it?
It lived with us for years.
I sincerely hope that Madame Arcadi won't produce any livestock. We have so very little room in the house.
Do you think she can tell the future? I love having my fortune told.
I expect so.
I was once told on a pier at South Sea that I was surrounded by lilies in the Golden Seven. It worried me for days.
We really must all be serious, you know. I pretend that we believe implicitly. No, otherwise, the old girl won't play.
Also, she might really mind. It would be cruel to upset her.
I shall be as good as gold.
Have you ever attended her, Doctor? Professionally, then?
Yes, she had influenza last January. She's only been here for just over a year, you know. I must say she was singularly unpsychic then. I always understood her to be an off the rest.
Oh, yes. We originally met then as colleagues at one of Mrs. Wilmot's Sunday evenings in Sandgate.
What sort of books does she write?
Two sorts, rather whimsical children's stories about enchanted forests with highly conventional flora and fauna, and enthusiastic biographies and minor royalties. Reverent, sentimental, and extremely funny.
Here she is.
She knows about tonight, doesn't she? You're not going to spring it on her, are you?
Of course, it was all arranged last week. I told her how profoundly interested in the occult I was, and she blossomed like a rose.
I really feel quite nervous, as though I were going to make a speech.
Come, go and get her, darling.
I've left my Bible against that little bush. It really hurt me.
Madame Arcadi.
How lovely of you to have come all this way.
My dear Madame Arcadi.
I'm afraid I'm rather late, but I had a sudden presentiment that I was going to have a puncture, and so I had to run back to fetch my pump. Oh. And then, of course, I didn't have a puncture at all.
Perhaps you will on the way home.
Dr. Bradman, the man with the gentle hand.
Delightful to see you looking so well. This is my wife.
We are old friends. We meet coming out of shops.
Would you like a cocktail?
It's a dry martini, yes. If it's a concoction, no. Experience has taught me to be very wary of concoctions.
It is a dry martini.
How delicious. It was wonderful cycling through the woods this evening. I was deafened with bird song.
It's been lovely all day.
But the evening's the time, mark my words. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
Don't you find it very tiring bicycling everywhere?
On the contrary, it stimulates me. I was getting far too sedentary in London in that horrid little flat with the dim lights. They had to be dim, you know. The clients expected.
I must say, I find bicycling very exhausting.
Steady rhythm, that's what counts. Once you get the knack of it, you need never look back. On you get and away you go.
But the hills, Madame Arcadi, pushing up all those awful hills.
Just knack again. Down with your head, up with your heart, and you're over the top like a flash and skimming down the other side like a dragonfly. This is the best dry martini I've had for years.
Would you like another?
Certainly. You are a very clever man. Anyone can write books, but it takes a true artist to make a dry martini that's dry enough.
Are you writing anything nowadays, Madame Arcadi?
Yes, every morning, regular as clockwork, 7 till 1.
Is it a novel or a memoir?
It's a children's book. I have to finish it by the end of October to catch the Christmas sales. It's mostly about very small animals. The hero is a moss beetle. I had to give up my memoir, Princess Paliatania. She died in April. I talked to her about it the other day, and she implored me to go on, but I really hadn't the heart.
You talked to her about it the other day.
Yes, through my control, of course. She sounded very irritable.
Oh, it's funny, isn't it? To think of anyone in the spirit world as being irritable. I mean, one can hardly imagine it, can one?
After all, we have no reliable guarantee that the spirit world is any less exasperating than this one.
Mr. Condamine, how can you?
I expect it's dreadfully ignorant of me not to know, but who was Princess Paliatani?
She was originally a Jewish woman from Odessa, of quite remarkable beauty. It was an accepted fact that people used to stand on the seats of railway stations just to watch her whiz by.
She was a keen traveler.
In her younger days, yes. Later on, she married Mr. Clark in the consular service and settled down for a while.
How did she become Princess Paliatani?
That was years later. Mr. Clark passed over and left her penniless with 2 strapping girls.
How unpleasant.
And so there was nothing for it but for her to obey the beckoning finger of adventure and take to the road again. So off she went, bag and baggage, to Vladivostok.
What an extraordinary place to go.
She had cousins there. Later on, she met Mr. Paliatani, who was returning from a secret mission in Japan. He was immediately staggered by her remarkable beauty and very shortly thereafter married her. It was from then that her life became really interesting.
I should hardly have described it as dull before.
What happened to the girls?
She neither saw them nor spoke to them for 23 years.
Oh, how extraordinary.
Not really. She was always very erratic emotionally.
Dinner served, ma'am.
Thank you, Edith.
Shall we? No red meat, I hope.
There is meat, but I don't think it will be very red. Would you prefer an egg or something?
No, thank you. It's just that I make it a rule never to eat red meat before I work. Sometimes has an odd effect.
What sort of effect?
Nothing of the least importance. It isn't very red, it won't matter much. Anywho, we'll risk it.
Come along then. Madame Arcadi, Mrs. Bradley, your Aunt Charles is around.
On her mother's side, she went right back to the Borgias, which I think accounted for a lot one way or another. Even as a child, she was given to the most violent, destructive tempers. Very inbred, you know.
Yes, she must have been.
My control was quite scared the other day when we were talking. I heard it in her voice. She's only a child, after all.
Do you always have a child as your control?
Yes, they're generally the best, especially when they get to know you and understand your ways. Daphne has worked with me for years.
And she still goes on being a child? I mean, she doesn't show any signs of getting any older?
Time values on the other side are utterly different from ours.
Do you feel funny when you go off into a trance?
In what way funny?
I don't think Mrs. Bradman meant funny in a comic implication. I think she meant odd or strange.
The word was an unfortunate choice.
I'm sure I'm very sorry.
Please don't apologize. Doesn't matter in the least.
When did you discover that you had these extraordinary powers?
When I was quite tiny. My mother was a medium before me, and so I had every opportunity of starting in on the ground floor, as you might say. I had my first trance when I was 4 and a half, and my first ectoplasmic manifestation when I was 5. What an exciting day that was. I shall never forget it. Of course, the manifestation itself was quite tiny and of very short duration, but for a child of my tender years, it was most gratifying.
Your mother must have been so pleased.
She was.
Can you foretell the future?
Certainly not. I disapprove of fortune tellers most strongly.
Oh, really? Why?
Too much guesswork and fate mixed up with it, even when the gift is genuine, and it only very occasionally is. You can't count on it.
Why not?
Time again. Time is the reef upon which all of our frail mystic ships are wrecked.
You mean because it has never been proven that the past and the present and the future are not one and the same thing?
I long ago came to the conclusion that nothing has ever been definitely proven about anything.
How very wise. Thank you, Edith. Don't worry about the dining room table. I can put it away now.
Yes,
And we don't want to be disturbed for the next hour or so for any reason whatsoever. Is that quite clear?
yes,
And if anyone should telephone, just tell them that we are out and take a message.
yes. Unless it's an urgent call for George.
Unless it's an urgent call for Dr. Pratt.
Yes.
There's not likely to be one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Once I am off, it won't matter, but a disruption in the preliminary stages might be disastrous.
Oh, I wish the men would hurry up. I'm terribly excited.
Please don't be. It makes everything much, much more difficult.
And then I realized he was advocating peace. Oh, Gandhi.
Well, Madam Arcadi, the time is drawing near.
Who knows? It may be receding.
How very true. I hope you're in the mood, Madam Arcadi.
It isn't a question of mood. It is a question of concentration.
You must forgive us being so impatient, Madam Arcadi. We can perfectly easily wait, though, if you're not quite ready to start.
Nonsense, my dear. I'm perfectly ready. Hi-ho, to work we go.
Is there anything you'd like us to do?
Do.
Yes, hold hands or anything.
Oh, that will come later. First, a few deep, deep breaths of fresh air. You may talk if you wish. It will not disturb me in the least.
Oh, dear.
Dinner was excellent as always, darling.
The moose wasn't quite right.
You're right, it did look a bit hysterical, but it tasted delicious.
That cuckoo was very angry.
I beg your pardon?
I said that cuckoo was very angry. Listen.
How can you tell?
Timber. No moon, that's just as well. There's a mist rising from the marshes. There's no need for me to light my bicycle lamp, is there? I mean, no one is likely to fall over it.
We're not expecting anybody else.
Good night, you foolish bird. You have a table.
Yes, we thought that one would do.
I think that one by the window will do better.
You told Edith that we didn't want to be disturbed?
Yes, darling.
This is a moment I always hate.
Are you quite nervous?
Yes, when I was a child, I always used to be sick.
How fortunate you grew out of it.
Children are always much more prone to be sick than adults, though, aren't they? I could never ride a train with any degree of safety until I was 14.
Little Tommy Tucker sings for his supper. What shall he have but brown bread and butter? I despise that because it doesn't rhyme at all, but Daphne loves it.
Who's Daphne?
Daphne is Madame Arcadi's control. She's a little girl.
Ah, yes, I see, of course.
How old is she?
Rising 7 when she died.
When was that?
February the 6th, 1884.
Poor little thing.
She must be a bit long in the tooth by now, I should think.
You should think, Dr. Bradman. But I fear that you don't. At least not profoundly enough.
Do be quiet, George. You'll put Madame Arcadi off.
Not to worry, my dear. I'm quite used to dealing with skeptics. They generally turn out to be the most vulnerable and receptive in the long run.
You better take that warning to heart, Dr. Bradley.
Please forgive me, Madame Arcadi. I can assure you that I am most deeply interested.
'Tis of no consequence. Now then, will you all sit round the table, please, and place your hands downwards on it. Come, Mrs. Bradley.
Well, what about the lights?
All in good time, Mr. Condamine. Please sit down. Fingers should be touching. That's right. Now, I presume that is a gramophone, Mr. Condamine.
Yes, it's an electric one. Would you like me to start it?
Not to worry, I can manage. Please stay where you are. Now then, let me see. What do we have here? Brahms? Dear me, no. Rachmaninoff? Too florid. Where's the dance music?
They're the loose ones on the left.
I see.
I'm afraid they're none of them very new.
Daphne is really more attached to Irving Berlin than anyone else. She likes a tune she can hum. Ah, here's one. Always.
Always!
Do sit down, Charles. What is the matter?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Now, there are a few things I should like to say, so you all listen attentively.
Of course.
Presently, when the music begins, I'm going to turn out the lights. I may then walk about the room for a while or lie down flat. In due course, I shall draw up this dear little stool and place myself between you and your wife, Mr. Condamine, placing my hands gently upon yours. I must ask you not to address me or do anything the least bit distracting. Is that quite clear?
Perfectly.
Good work. Of course, I cannot guarantee that anything will happen at all. Daphne may be unavailable. She had a head cold very recently and was rather under the weather, poor child. On the other hand, a great many things might occur. One of you might have an emanation, for instance. Or we might contact a poltergeist, which would be extremely destructive and noisy.
In what way? Destructive?
They throw things, you know.
No, I didn't know.
But we must cross that bridge when we come to it, mustn't we?
Certainly, by all means.
Fortunately, an elemental at this time of year is most unlikely.
What do elementals do?
Oh, my dear, one can never tell. They're dreadfully unpredictable. They usually take the form of a very cold wind, occasionally reaching almost hurricane velocity.
You don't think it might be wise to take the more breakable ornaments off the mantelpiece before we begin?
Not to worry, Mrs. Condamine. I assure you I have my own methods of dealing with elementals.
I'm so glad.
Now then, are you ready to empty your minds?
You mean we're to try to think of nothing?
Absolutely nothing, Dr. Bradman.
I'll do my damnedest.
Good work. Now then, the music. Lights.
Oh dear.
Quiet, please. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Now then, is there anyone there? Ah, good stuff. Is that you, Daphne? Is your cold better, dear? I'm afraid she's rather fretful. Is there someone there who would wish to speak to someone here? Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Oh, Daphne! Oh, Is it me? Is it Dr. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Condamine? Daphne, do behave yourself! Is it Mr. Condamine? Ah, Mr. Condamine, there's someone there who wishes to speak to you.
Tell him to leave a message.
I really must ask you not to be so flippant, Mr. Condamine.
Charles, Ted, we so late.
I'm so sorry, it just slipped out.
Now then, can you think of anyone you know who has passed over recently?
No one, except for my cousin in the civil service, but I don't know why you'd want to talk to me. We haven't spoken in years.
Are you Mr. Condamine's cousin in the civil service? Well, I'm afraid we've drawn a blank. Can't you think of anyone else? Rack your brains.
It might be old Mrs. Plummet, you know. She died on Whit Monday.
I don't know why old Mrs. Plummet would want to talk to me. We had very little in common.
It's worth trying anyhow.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet?
She was very deaf. Perhaps you better shout.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet? Well, there's nobody there at all.
How disappointing. Just as we were getting on so nicely.
Well, I'm afraid there's nothing for it but for me to go into a trance. I hope to avoid it, as they're so exhausting, but what must be, must be. Excuse me a moment while I start the gramophone again.
Oh, not always. Please, not always.
I am not, Charles. Don't be absurd.
I'm sorry, but we must. It would be imprudent to change horses in midstream, if you know what I mean.
Have it your own way.
That's Daphne. Shut down for Ananhoid's house.
George, please.
Good God!
It's trying to get away. I can't hold it. Press down hard. Oh, there now. Oh, I'm going to pick it up and look at where it is.
How the hell do I know?
Well, there's no reason to snap at me.
Who said that?
Who said what?
Somebody said leave it where it is.
Nonsense, dear.
I heard it distinctly.
Nobody else did they?
I didn't hear a sound.
It was you, Ruth. You played tricks.
I do nothing of the sort. I haven't uttered.
Good evening, Charles.
Ventriloquism, that's what it is. Ventriloquism.
What is the matter with you?
You mean to stand there, all of you, solemnly, and tell me that none of you heard a thing?
I certainly didn't.
Neither did I. I wish I had. I should love to hear something.
It's you who are playing the tricks, Charles. You're acting to try to frighten us.
I'm not. I swear I'm not.
It's difficult to think of what to say after 7 years. But I suppose good evening is just as good as anything else.
Who are you? Who are you?
Elvira, of course. Don't be so silly.
That's it, everyone. The entertainment's over.
Charles, what can you? Just as we are beginning to enjoy ourselves.
Never again. Never again, as long as I live.
What on earth's the matter with you?
I'm just sick of the whole business, is all.
Did you hear anything that we didn't hear, really?
Of course not. I was only pretending.
I knew you were.
Oh dear, look at Madame Arcani.
Well, what are we to do with her?
Bring her around immediately.
We better leave her alone.
Well, she might stay like that for hours.
Bring her around. It's dangerous for her to leave her like that.
Really, Charles, you're behaving most peculiarly.
Brandy?
No.
No? Karen chair?
Yes. Wake up, Madame. Wake up, Madame Arcadi. It's time to go home, Madame Arcadi. Wake up, Madame Arcadi. Oh, you got her, Brandy. Oh, wake up, Madame Arcadi. Little tummy tucker, Madame Arcadi. Little tummy tucker. Wake up.
She's coming round.
Careful, Charles, you're so bad. Hold down her dress.
Well, that's that.
Are you all right?
Certainly Dr. Bradley. Bradley on top of a trance might have been catastrophic. Take it away, please. I know I shan't sleep a wink tonight as it is.
No, I shan't.
Why on earth not?
The whole experience has just unhinged me is all.
Well, what happened? Was it satisfactory?
Nothing much happened after you went off, Madam Arcani.
Very curious. No poltergeist at any rate. That's a good thing. Any apparitions?
None at all.
No ectoplasm?
I'm not quite sure what it is, but I don't think so.
Very curious. I feel as though something tremendous has taken place.
Charles pretended he heard a voice in order to frighten us.
It was only a joke.
A very poor one, if I may say so. Nevertheless, I am prepared to swear that there is another psychic subject in the room apart from myself.
I don't see how there can be, really, Madam Arcani.
I do hope I haven't gone and released something. I'll move out to find out in a day or two. You might let me know at once if you should hear any unexpected noises.
Of course, we'll telephone.
I do think I better be going now.
Would you like anything before you go?
No, thank you. I have some Ovaltine already in a saucepan at home. It only needs hotting up.
Would you like to leave your bicycle here and let us drive you?
I honestly think you should, Madame Arcadi. You can't be feeling yourself after your trance.
Nonsense, my dear. I'm fit as a fiddle. Always feel capital after a trance. Rejuvenates me. Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine.
It was very sweet of you to have taken the trouble.
I'm so sorry so little occurred. It's that cold of Daphne's, I'd expect. You know what children are when they have anything wrong with them. We must try again some other evening.
That would be lovely.
Goodbye, Mrs. Bradman.
It was thrilling. I felt the table shaking beneath my hands.
Good night, Doctor.
Congratulations, Madam Arcot.
I am fully aware of the irony in your tone, Dr. Bradman. As a matter of fact, you'd be an admirable subject for a telepathic hypnosis. A great chum of mine is an expert. I should like her to look you over.
I'm sure I should be charmed.
Well, good night, everyone. Next time, we must really put our backs into it.
Careful, Mrs. Condamine. She might hear you.
I really can't help it. I've been holding this in for ages.
Oh, she certainly put you in your place, George. It serves you right.
She's making me mad, of course. Mad as a hatter.
What do you think she really believes?
Of course not. The whole thing's a put-up job. I must say, though, she shoots a more original line than most generally do.
She must be half convinced herself by now.
Possibly. The trance was genuine enough, but that, of course, is easily accounted for.
Hysteria?
Yes, a form of hysteria, I should imagine.
Well,
and in
I
fact,
hope Mr. Condamine got all the atmosphere he was looking for with his book.
He might have gotten a great deal more if he hadn't ruined everything by showing off. Very, very close. Something felt a trap. Is there a window open?
No, the shot.
Maybe it was one of those, what you may call them, Madame Arcadi was talking about.
Elemental.
Yes!
Couldn't be. She distinctly said it's the wrong time of year.
Well, the old girl's gone pedaling off again at a hell of a speed. We had a bit of trouble lighting her lamp.
Oh, poor thing.
You know, I have a theory about her. I believe that she's completely serious.
Charles, how can she be?
Couldn't she be, Doctor, some sort of hysteria or self-hypnosis? Yes, as I was just explaining to you why
George,
first
it's
of
awfully
hysterical
late.
subject.
Get going. You have to be up so terribly early in the morning.
You see, the moment I begin to talk about anything that genuinely interests me, my wife interrupts.
You know I'm right, darling. It's past 11.
I should do a little reading up on the whole business, just for fun.
Would you like a drink before you go?
No, we must be off. Violet's quite right, I'm afraid. I've got to be up abundantly early tomorrow. I have a patient being operated on in Canterbury.
Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine. It was a thrilling evening. I shall never forget it. It was sweet of you to include us.
Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine. Thank you so much. Are you sure about that drink? Quite sure, thanks.
We'll let you know if we find any poltergeists swirling about.
I'm sure I should never forgive you if you didn't.
Come along, darling.
Well, darling,
Well,
would you say the evening
funny at moments.
Yes, it certainly was.
What's the matter?
The matter?
Yes, you seem old somehow. Do you feel quite well?
Perfectly. I think I'll have a drink. Do you want one?
No, thank you, dear.
It's rather chilly in this room.
Come over here by the fire.
I don't think I'll make any notes tonight. I'll start fresh in the morning. My God! Charles!
That was very clumsy, Charles, dear.
Elvira, then it's true, and it was
Of
you!
course it was.
Charles, Charles, what are you talking about?
Don't you see?
See what?
Elvira!
Elvira!
Yes. Elvira, dear, this is Ruth. Ruth, this is Elvira.
Come and sit down, darling.
Do you mean to say that you can't see her?
And listen, Charles, you just come and sit down by the fire, and I'll mix you another drink. Don't worry about the mess. Edith can clean it up in the morning.
But you must be able to see her. She's right in front of you. Look there.
Are you mad? What's happened to you?
You can't see her.
This is a joke, dear. It's gone quite far enough. Sit down, for God's sake, and don't be idiotic.
What am I to do? What the hell am I to do?
I should think that you might be a little more pleased to see me. After all, you conjured me up.
I did not.
Nonsense, of course you did. That awful child with the cold came and told me that you wanted to see me urgently.
It was a mistake, a horrible mistake.
Stop talking like that, Charles. As I said before, the joke's gone far enough.
I've gone mad. That's what it is. I've just gone raving mad.
Here, drink this.
This is appalling.
Relax.
Relax. How can I relax? I should never be able to relax again as long as I live.
Drink some brandy.
There, now are you satisfied?
Now sit down.
Sit? Why are you so anxious for me to sit? What good will that do?
I want you to relax. You can't relax standing up.
Flamingos can. They can stand on one leg for hours.
I don't happen to be a flamingo.
You don't happen to be a what?
A flamingo!
What's to do with it?
Nothing. It's got nothing to do. See? I've sat down.
Would you like another brandy?
Yes, please.
Very unwise. You always had a weak head.
I could drink you under the table.
There's no need to be aggressive, dear. I'm doing my best to help you.
I'm sorry.
Now, drink this and then we'll go to bed.
Get rid of her, Charles, and then we can talk in peace.
That is a thoroughly immoral suggestion. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
What is there immoral in that?
I wasn't talking to you.
Who are you talking to then?
Elvira!
Who is Elvira?
There now, she's getting cross.
I don't blame her.
What don't you blame her for?
Oh, God.
Now look here, Charles. I gather you've got some sort of plan behind all this. I'm not quite fooled. I suspected you when we were doing that idiotic seance.
Don't be so silly. What plan could I possibly have?
No, it's probably something to do with the characters in your book, how they or one of them would react to a certain situation. I refuse to be made a guinea pig unless I'm warned beforehand what it's all about.
Elvira is here, Ruth. She's standing a few yards away from you.
Yes, dear, I can see her clearly under the piano with the zebra.
Oh, but Ruth.
I will not stay here arguing any longer.
Hooray!
Shut up!
How dare you speak to me?
Listen, please.
I will not stay here and listen to any more of this nonsense. I'm going up to bed now, so will you turn on the lights? I shan't be asleep, but I'm too upset. So you can come in and say goodnight to me if you feel like it.
That's big of her, I must say.
Be quiet. You're behaving like a gutter snake.
That is all I have to say. Good night, Charles.
Ruth, no, Ruth, please.
Well, that was one of the most enjoyable half hours I've ever spent.
Oh, Elvira, how can you?
Poor Ruth.
This is obviously a hallucination, isn't it?
I'm afraid I don't know the technical term for it.
Oh, what am I to do?
What Ruth suggested, relax.
Are you a ghost?
Well, I suppose I must be. It's all very confusing.
Are you to be here indefinitely?
I don't really know.
Oh, God.
Why? Would you hate it so much if I was?
You must admit it would be embarrassing.
I don't see why, really. It's all a question of adjusting yourself. Anyhow, I think it's horrid of you to be so unwelcoming and disagreeable.
Now, look here, Elvira.
I do. I think you're mean.
We'll try to see my point of view a little. You've been dead for 7 years, and I've been married to Ruth for 5.
Not dead, Charles. Passed over. It's considered vulgar to say dead where I come from.
Passed over, then.
At any rate, now that I'm here, the least you can do is make a pretense of being amiable about it.
Of course, my dear. I'm delighted in one way.
I don't believe you love me anymore.
I shall always love the memory of you.
You mustn't think me unreasonable that I really am a little hurt. You
called me back, and at great inconvenience I came. And you've been thoroughly churlish ever since I arrived.
Believe me, Elvira, I most emphatically did not call you back. There's been some mistake.
Well, somebody did. And that child said it was you. I remember I was playing backgammon with a very sweet old gentleman. I think his name was Genghis Khan. And I'd just thrown double sixes, and then the child paged me, and the next thing I knew I was in this room. But perhaps it was your subconscious.
You must figure out how long you're going to stay or not, and we can make arrangements accordingly.
I don't see how I can.
Oh, well, isn't there anyone on the other side who could advise you?
I can't think. It seems so far away, as though I dreamed it.
You must know somebody else besides Genghis Khan!
Charles!
What is it now?
I want to cry, but I don't think I'm able to.
What do you want to cry for?
With seeing you again, and you being so irascible like you always used to be.
I don't mean to be irascible, Elvira.
Darling, I don't mind, really. I never did.
Is it cold, being a ghost?
No, I don't think so.
What happens if I touch you?
I doubt if you can. Do you want to?
Oh, Elvira.
Oh, what is it, darling?
I really do feel strange seeing you again.
That's better.
What's better?
Your voice was kinder.
Was I ever unkind to you when you were alive?
Often.
Oh, how can you? I'm sure that's an exaggeration.
Not at all. You were an absolute pig that time we went to Cornwall and we stayed in that awful hotel. You hit me with a billiard cue.
Only very, very gently.
I love you very much.
I loved you too. No, I can't touch you. Isn't that horrible?
Perhaps it's just as well if I'm going to be here for any length of time.
Suppose I shall wake up eventually. But I feel strangely peaceful now.
That's right. Put your head back.
Like this?
Can you feel anything?
Only a very slight breeze through my head.
Well, that's better than nothing.
I suppose if I am crazy, they'll put me in an asylum.
Don't worry about that. Just relax.
Poor Ruth.
To hell with Ruth.
Good morning, darling.
Good morning, Charles.
It certainly is.
What certainly is what?
A good morning, a tremendously good morning. There isn't a cloud in the sky and everything looks newly washed.
Edith's keeping your breakfast hot. Better bring.
Anything interesting in the Times?
Don't be silly, dear.
I intend to work all day.
Good.
It's extraordinary about daylight, isn't it?
How do you mean?
How it reduces everything to normal.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
I'm sure I'm very glad to hear it.
You're awful glacial this morning.
Are you surprised?
Frankly, yes. I expected more of you.
Well, really.
Yes, I've always seen you as a woman of perception and understanding.
Perhaps this is one of my off days.
Good morning, Edith.
Good morning, sir.
How's cook?
I don't know, sir. I haven't asked her.
You should. You should begin every day by asking everyone how they are. It oils the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Greet her for me, will you?
Yes, sir.
That will be all for the moment, Edith?
Yes, sir.
I wish you wouldn't be so facetious with the servants, Charles. It confuses them and undermines their morale.
I consider that point of view retrogressive, if not downright feudal.
I don't care what you consider it. I have to run the house, and you don't.
Are you implying that I couldn't?
You're at liberty to try.
I take back what I said about it being a good morning. It's a horrid morning.
You better eat your breakfast while it's hot.
It isn't.
Now look here, Charles. In your younger days, this display of roguish flippancy might have been alluring, but in a middle-aged novelist, it's nauseating.
Would you like me to ride at your feet in a frenzy of self-abasement?
That would be equally nauseating, but certainly more appropriate.
I don't see what I've done.
You behaved abominably last night. You wounded me and insulted me.
I was the victim of an aberration.
Nonsense. You were drunk.
Drunk?
You had 4 strong dry martinis before dinner, a great deal too much burgundy at dinner, heaven knows how much port and kibble with Dr. Craven, while I was doing my best to entertain that mad woman, and 2 double brandies later on. I gave them to you myself, of course. You were drunk.
So that's your story, is it?
You refused to come to bed, and when I finally came down at 3 in the morning to see what had happened to you, I found you in an alcoholic coma on the sofa with the fire out and your hair all over your face.
I was not in the least drunk, Ruth. Something happened to me last night. Something very peculiar happened to me last night.
Nonsense.
It isn't nonsense. I know it looks like nonsense in the clear, remorseless light of day, but last night it was far from being nonsense.
I would really rather not discuss it any further.
But you must discuss it. It's rather disturbing.
There, I agree with you. It showed you up in a most unpleasant light. I find that extremely disturbing.
The last night, during the seance, I was convinced that I heard Elvira's voice.
Nobody else did,
I can't help that, I did.
but you couldn't have.
And later on, I was equally convinced that I saw her in the room with us. After you went to bed, it had quite a cozy little chat.
Can you seriously expect me to believe that you weren't drunk?
If I had been all that drunk, I should have a dreadful hangover right now, shouldn't I?
I'm not at all sure that you haven't.
I haven't got the slightest trace of a headache. My tongue's not coated. Look at it.
I have not the least desire to look at your tongue. Kindly put it in again.
I know what it is. You're frightened.
Frightened? Oh, rubbish. What is there to be frightened of?
Elvira, you wouldn't have minded all that much even if I had been all that drunk. It's all because this whole business is mixed up with Elvira.
I seem to remember last night telling you that your views of the female psychology were didactic. I was right. I should have added that they were puerile.
That's when it all began.
When what all began?
We were talking too much about Elvira. It's dangerous to have someone too strongly in the mind when you start dabbling with the occult.
Well, she certainly wasn't strongly in my mind.
Well, she was in mine.
Oh, she was she?
You tried to make me say that she was more physically attractive than you so that you could hold it over me.
I did not. I don't give a hoot how physically attractive she was.
Oh, yes, you do. Your whole being's consumed with jealousy.
This is too much.
Women, my God, when I think of women.
Your view of women is academic, to say the least of it. Just because you've always been dominated by them, it doesn't necessarily follow that you know anything about them.
I've never been dominated by anyone.
You were hag-ridden by your mother until you were 23, and then you got into the clutches of that awful Mrs. whatever her name was.
Mrs. Winthrop Llewellyn.
I'm not interested. And then there was Elvira. She ruled you with a rod of iron.
Elvira never ruled over anyone. She was much too elusive. That was one of her greatest charms.
Then there was Maud Chartres.
My affair with Maud Chartres lasted exactly 7.5 weeks, and she cried the whole time.
A tyranny of tears. Then there was, well,
If you wish to make an inventory of my sex life, dear, I'm afraid you missed out on a few episodes. I'll consult my diary and get back to you after lunch.
it's no use trying to impress me with your routine amorous exploits.
The only woman who's ever tried to dominate me is you, Ruth. You've been at it for years.
That is completely untrue.
Oh, no, it isn't. You boss me and bully me and order me about. I can't even have a hallucination if I want to.
Charles, alcohol will ruin your life if you allow it to get a hold of you, you know.
Once and for all, Ruth, whatever happened last night had nothing whatever to do with alcohol. You very adroitly rationalized the whole affair to your own satisfaction, but your deductions are based on complete fallacy. I'm willing to grant you that it was some sort of aberration, some sort of odd psychic delusion brought on by suggestion or hypnosis. But I was stone cold sober from first to last and extremely upset into the bargain.
You were upset indeed? What about me?
You behaved with a stolid, obtuse lack of comprehension that frankly shocked me.
I consider that I was remarkably patient. I shall know better next time.
Instead of lending out a gentle, commodly hand to guide me, you shouted staccato orders at me like a sergeant
You
major.
seem to forget that you gratuitously insulted me.
I did not.
You called me a gutter snipe. You told me to shut up. And when I quietly suggested that we go to bed, you said with the most disgusting leer that it was an immoral suggestion.
I was talking to Elvira.
If you were, then I can only say it conjures up a fragrant picture of your first marriage.
My first marriage was perfectly charming, and I think it's in the worst possible taste for you to sneer at it.
I'm not nearly so interested in your first marriage as you think I am. It's your second marriage that is absorbing me at the moment. It seems to me to be on the rocks.
Only because you persisted taking up this ridiculous attitude.
My attitude is that of any normal woman whose husband gets drunk and hurls abuse at her.
I was not drunk!
Be quiet, Charles. I'll hear you in the kitchen.
goddamn stubbornness. It's giving me claustrophobia.
You better ring up Dr. Radley.
Can I clear, ma'am?
Yes,
Cook wants to know about lunch, ma'am.
will you be into lunch, Charles?
Tell Cook that I'll be perfectly happy with a bottle of gin in my bedroom.
Don't be silly, dear. Tell us we shall both eat.
Yes.
I'm going to hike this morning. Is there anything you want?
Yes, a great deal. But I doubt you could get it in height.
Tell Cook to put Alka-Seltzer down on my list. Will you, Edith?
Yes.
It's clouding over.
You have a genius for understatement.
But don't worry about the table, Edith. I can do it.
Yes.
Please, Ruth, be reasonable.
I'm perfectly reasonable.
I really did believe that I saw Elvira last night, and when I heard her voice, I was appalled.
You put up with it for 5 years.
When I saw her at the shock of my life, that's why I fell over.
But you couldn't have seen her.
I know I couldn't have, but I did.
I'm willing to grant, then, that you imagined that you did.
That's what I've been trying to explain to you for hours.
Well, then there's obviously something wrong with you, isn't there?
You're right. There is something wrong with me, something fundamentally wrong with me, and that's why I've been imploring your sympathy, and all I got was a sterile temperance lecture.
You had been drinking, Charles. There's no denying that.
No more than usual.
Well, how do you account for it, then?
I can't account for it. That's what's so awful.
How did you feel yesterday, during the day?
Fine.
Well, what did you have for lunch?
You ought to know. You had it with me.
Let's see. There was lemon sole and that cheese thing.
I don't see why having a cheese thing for lunch would make me see my deceased wife after dinner.
Never know. It was rather rich.
Well, did you see your deceased husband then?
This is not getting us anywhere at all.
It won't, as long as you keep ascribing supernatural phenomena to colonic irritation.
Supernatural grandmother.
I admit she'd be much less agitating.
Perhaps you have to see a nerve specialist.
I'm not in the least neurotic, nor have I ever been.
A psychoanalyst, then.
I refuse to spend months in expensive humiliation, only to be told at the end of it that at the age of 4, I was in love with my rocking horse.
Well, what do you suggest, then?
I don't suggest anything. I'm profoundly uneasy.
Perhaps there's something pressing on your brain?
I should know if I should have anything like that, shouldn't I?
Not necessarily. An uncle of mine had a lump the size of a cricket ball pressing on his brain for years, and he never felt a thing.
Oh, a cricket ball. I don't know if I should have anything like that.
He didn't.
Well, what happened to him?
He hasn't taken out, and he's been bright as a button ever since.
Did he see things that weren't there? Did he have any sort of delusions?
No, I don't think so.
Well, what the hell are we talking about him for then? It's a sheer waste of valuable
I
time.
only brought him up as an example.
I think I'm going mad.
How do you feel now?
Physically, do you mean?
Altogether.
Apart from being worried, I feel fine.
Good, good. You're not hearing or seeing anything in the least unusual?
I didn't have a thing.
You absolutely ruined that border by the sundial. It looks like a big salad.
She's here again!
What do you mean?
Elvira's here again!
What do you mean? Who's here again?
Elvira!
It's all those nasturtiums. They're so vulgar.
I like nasturtiums.
You like what?
They're all right in moderation, but in a mass like that, they look beastly.
Help me, Ruth. You've got to help me.
What did you mean by nasturtium?
Never mind about that. Now I tell you she's here again.
Pull yourself together and don't be absurd.
You've been having a nice scene, haven't you? I can hear you all the way down the garden.
Please mind your own business.
If you're behaving like a lunatic isn't my business, then nothing is.
I suppose it was about me, wasn't it? I know I ought to feel sorry, but I'm not. I'm delighted.
Be so inconsiderate.
Inconsiderate. I like that, I must say.
Ruth, please.
I've done everything I can to help. I've controlled myself admirably, and I should like to say here and now that I don't believe a word about your damned hallucination. You're up to something, Charles. There's been a certain furtiveness in your manner for weeks. Why don't you just be honest and tell me what it is?
You're wrong. I haven't been in the least bit furtive.
You're trying to upset me. For some reason, you're trying to goad me into doing something that I might regret. I won't put up with it any longer. You're making me utterly miserable.
Ruth.
Don't come near.
Oh, let her have a nice cry. It'll do her good.
You're utterly heartless.
Heartless.
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Elvira.
Go on, talk to her then. Talk to her till you're blue in the face, but don't talk to me. me!
Help me, Elvira!
How?
Make her see you or something.
Oh, I'm afraid I couldn't manage that. It's technically the most difficult business. Frightfully complicated, you know. It takes years of study, and even then...
You are here, aren't you? You're not an illusion.
I may be an illusion, but I'm most definitely here.
How did you get here?
I told you last night, I don't exactly know.
Well, in the future, you must promise me that you'll only come and visit me when I am alone.
How unkind you are, making me feel so unwanted. I've never been treated so rudely.
I don't mean to be rude, Elvira,
It's
but...
your own fault for having married a woman who is incapable of seeing beyond the nose of her face. If she had a grain of real sympathy or affection for you, she'd believe what you tell her.
How could you expect anybody to believe this?
You'd be surprised at how gullible people are. You have to laugh about it on the other side. Charles,
Yes, dear?
I'm awfully sorry that I was cross.
But my dear,
I understand everything now. I do really.
you do?
Of course I do. Look out, she's up to something.
Will you please be quiet?
Very well, dear. We'll all be quiet, won't we? We'll all be as quiet as little mice.
Darling, listen.
I want you to come upstairs with me and go to bed. The way that woman harps on bed is nothing short of erotic.
I'll deal with you later.
Very well, dear. Come along.
What are you up to?
I'm not up to anything. I just want you to come upstairs and go to bed and wait there until Dr. Bradley comes.
No, Ruth, you're wrong.
Come along, dear. She'll have you in a straitjacket before you know where you are.
Help me, Elvira, you've got to help me.
My dear, I would with pleasure, but I can't think how.
I can. Ruth, listen.
Yes, dear.
If I promise to go back to bed with you, will you stay here for just 5 minutes longer?
I really think it would be better if you could.
Bear with me. However mad it may seem, bear with me for just 5 minutes longer.
Very well, dear. What is it?
Sit down.
Right? There.
Now listen. Listen carefully.
Have a cigarette. It'll calm your nerves.
I don't want a cigarette!
Then you shan't have one, darling.
I want to explain to you clearly, without emotion, that beyond a shadow of a doubt, the ghost or shave or whatever you may like to call it of my late wife Elvira is in the room with us right now.
Yes, dear.
I know you don't believe me and you're trying valiantly to humor me, but I intend to prove it to you.
But why not come upstairs and have a nice rest and you can prove anything you want to me later on?
She may not be here later on.
Don't worry, she will.
Oh, God.
Hush, dear.
Promise you'll do what I ask.
It all depends on what it is.
Do you see that bowl of flowers on the table?
Yes, dear, I did it myself this morning. Very untidily, if I may say so.
You may not.
Very well, I never will again, I promise.
Elvira will now carry this bowl of flowers from the table to the mantelpiece and back again. You will, Elvira, won't you, just to please me?
I really don't see why I should. You've been quite inseparable to me ever since I materialized.
Please.
All right. I will just this once. Not that I approve of all these masculine and day bond carryings on.
Now, Ruth, watch carefully.
Very well, dear.
Go on, Elvira, take it to the mantelpiece and back again.
Oh, how dare you, Charles! Don't be ashamed of yourself!
What on earth for?
It's a trick! I know perfectly well it's a trick! You've been leading up to this. It's also part of your horrible plan.
It isn't, I swear it isn't. Elvira, do something else, for God's sake.
Certainly, anything to oblige. You want to get rid of me. You're trying to drive me out of my mind.
Don't be so silly.
You're cruel and sadistic, and I'll never forgive you. I won't forget this anymore.
You must believe it, you must.
Let me go.
It was Elvira, I swear it was.
Let me go.
Ruth, please.
Charles, this is sheer madness. Some sort of auto-suggestion, isn't it? Some sort of hypnotism. Swear to me it's only that. Swear to me it's only that. Hypnotism, my foot!
Madame Arcadi.
My dear Mrs. Condamine, I came directly. I got your call.
It was very kind of you.
Kind? Nonsense. Not kind at all. I look upon it as an outing.
I'm so glad. Would you have some tea?
China or Indian? China. Good. I never touch Indian. It upsets my vibrations.
Do sit down.
I find this room very interesting. I noticed it the other night.
I'm not at all surprised.
Have you ever been to Cowden Manor?
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
That's very interesting, too. Strikes you like a blow between the eyes the minute you walk into the drawing room. I'll have 2 lumps of sugar, please, and no milk at all.
I'm profoundly disturbed, Madame Arcadi, and I want your help.
Uh-huh. I thought as much. What's in these sandwiches?
A cucumber.
Couldn't be better. Fire away.
It's most awfully difficult to explain.
Facts first, explanations afterwards.
It's the facts that are difficult. They're so fantastic.
Facts very often are. Take creative talent, for instance. How can you account for that? Look at Shakespeare and Michelangelo. How can you explain Mozart snatching sounds out of the air and putting them down on paper when he was practically a baby? Facts. Plain facts. I know the fashion nowadays is to ascribe it all to the glands, but my response to that is fiddly-dee.
Yes, I'm sure you're quite right.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Mrs. Condamine.
There certainly are.
Come now, take the punch. Out with it. Been hearing strange noises in the night, no doubt. Boards creaking, doors slamming, subdued moaning in the passageways, is that it?
No, I'm afraid it isn't.
No sudden gusts of cold wind, I hope.
No, it's worse than that.
I am all attention.
I know it sounds idiotic, but the other night, during the seance, something happened.
I knew it! Probably a poltergeist. They're enormously cunning, you know. They sometimes lie doggo for days.
You're aware that my husband was married before.
Yes, I have heard it mentioned.
His first wife, Elvira, died comparatively young.
Where?
In this house, this very room.
Huh. I'm beginning to see daylight.
She was convalescing after pneumonia, and one evening she began to let helplessly one of the BBC musical programs and died of a heart attack.
And she appeared the other night after I'd gone.
Not to me, to my husband.
Capital! Capital, Olga! That is splendid!
From your own professional standpoint, I can see that it might be regarded as a major achievement.
A triumph, my dear! Nothing more nor less than a triumph!
But from my own personal standpoint, it is, to say the least of it, embarrassing.
At last, a genuine materialization.
Do sit down again, Madame Arcadi.
Sit down! How could one sit down at a time such as this? I haven't had such success since the Sudbury case.
Nevertheless, I must insist upon you sitting down and controlling your natural exuberance. I appreciate fully your pride in your achievement, but I should like to point out that it has made my position in this house untenable and that I hold you completely responsible.
Forgive me, Mrs. Condamine. I was being abominably selfish. How can I help?
How? By sending her back immediately to where she came from, of course.
I'm afraid that is easier said than done.
Do you mean that she is liable to stay here indefinitely?
It's difficult to say. I fear it depends largely on her.
But my dear Madame Arcadi...
Where is she now?
My husband drove her to Folkestone. She was apparently eager to see one of her old friends who was staying at the Grand.
Forgive me for this formality, but I must make a report to the Society for Psychical Research.
I should be very much obliged if there were no names mentioned.
The report will be confidential.
It's a small village, you know, and gossip would be most undesirable.
I understand. You say she is visible only to your husband?
Yes.
Visible only to husband? Audible too, I presume.
Extremely audible.
Extremely audible. Your husband was devoted to her.
Yes, I believe so.
Husband devoted.
It was apparently a reasonably happy marriage.
Oh.
I beg your pardon?
When did you pass over?
7 years ago.
Ah, no, she must have been on the waiting list.
Waiting list?
Yes, otherwise she would have gotten beyond the materialization stage by now. She probably marked herself down for a return visit, and that wouldn't have been possible unless there had been a strong influence at work.
Do you mean to say that Charles, my husband, wanted her back all that much?
Possibly. Or it might have been her own determination.
That sounds much more likely.
Would you say she was a woman of very strong character?
I really don't know, Madame Arcadi. I never met her. Nor am I particularly interested in how and why she got here. I am solely concerned with the question of how to get her away again as soon as possible.
I fully sympathize with you, Mrs. Condamine, and I will do everything in my power to help. But at the moment, I fear I cannot offer any great hopes.
But I always understood that there was some way of exorcising ghosts, some sort of ritual.
You mean the old bell and book method?
Yes, I suppose I do.
Poppycock, Mrs. Condamine. It was quite effective in the days of genuine religious belief, but that's all changed now. I believe the decline in faith in the spirit world has been causing grave concern.
Has it indeed?
There was a time, of course, when a drop of holy water could send even a poltergeist running for cover, but not anymore. Où sont les neiges d'antan?
Be that as it may, Madame Arcadi, I must insist upon you doing your utmost to dematerialize my husband's first wife as soon as possible.
The time has come for me to admit to you frankly, Mrs. Condamine, that I have the faintest idea of how to set about it.
Do you mean to sit there and tell me that having mischievously conjured up this ghost or spirit or whatever she is, and put me in the most hideous position, that you are unable to do anything about it at all?
Honesty is the best policy.
But it's outrageous! I ought to hand you over to the police!
You go too far, Mrs. Condamine.
I go too far indeed. Do you realize what your insane amateur muddling has done?
I have been a professional since I was a child. Amateur is a word I cannot tolerate.
It seems to me to be the height of amateurishness to evoke malignant spirits and be unable to get rid of them again.
I was in a trance. Anything might happen when I'm in a trance.
Well, all I can suggest is that you go into another one immediately and get this damned woman out of my house.
I can't go into a trance at a moment's notice. It takes hours of preparation. In addition to which, I need to be extremely careful of my diet for days beforehand. For example, today, I lunched with friends and had pigeon pie, which, on top of these cucumber sandwiches, would make a trance out of the question.
Well, you'll have to do something.
I will make a report to the Society for Psychical Research at the earliest possible moment.
Will they be able to do anything?
I doubt it. They'll probably send an investigation committee down, and they'll do a lot of questioning and wall tapping and mumbo jumbo. And then they'll have a conference, and you'll probably have to go to London to testify.
It's too humiliating, it really is.
No, don't upset yourself. Nothing can be achieved by upsetting yourself.
It's all very fine for you to talk like that, Madame Arcadi. You don't seem to have the faintest realization of my position.
Try to look on the bright side.
Bright side, indeed. Do you think that if your husband's first wife suddenly appeared from the grave and came to live in the house with you, that you'd be able to look on the bright side?
I resent your tone, Mrs. Condamine. I really do.
You most decidedly have no right to. You are entirely to blame for this whole horrible situation.
Kindly remember that I came here on your own invitation.
On my husband's invitation.
I did what was asked of me. I performed a seance and made contact with the other side. I had no idea that there were any ulterior motives mixed up with it.
Ulterior motives?
Your husband was obviously very eager to make contact with his late wife. If I had known that, of course I would have consulted with you beforehand. After all, noblesse oblige.
He had no intention of getting in contact with anyone. The whole thing was planned in order for him to get research material for a mystery novel he's writing about a homicidal medium.
Am I to understand that I was only invited here in a spirit of mockery?
Not at all. He merely wanted to make some notes of the tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade! Insufferable! I have never been more insulted in my life. I feel we have nothing more to say to one another, Mrs. Condamine. Goodbye!
Please don't go, please.
Your attitude from the outset has been most unpleasant. Some of your remarks have been discourteous in the extreme, and I should like to say, without umbrage, that if you and your husband were foolish enough to tamper with the unseen for paltry motives and in the spirit of rivalry, then whatever has happened to you is your own fault, and, to coin a phrase, you may stew in your own juice.
What was Madame Arcadi doing here?
She came to tea.
Did you ask her?
Of course I did.
You never told me you were going to.
You never told me that you were going to ask Elvira to live with us.
I didn't.
Of course we did, darling. It was your subconscious.
Well, what was she so cross about? She practically cut me dead.
I told her the truth about why we invited her the other evening.
That was most unnecessary and quite unkind.
Oh, she needed taking down a bit. She was blowing herself out like a powder pigeon.
Well, why did you ask her to tea?
To get me exercised, of course. Oh, I do wish I could have a cucumber sandwich. I did love them so.
Is that true?
Is what true?
What Elvira said.
You know perfectly well I can't hear what Elvira says.
She said you asked Madame Arcadi here to get her exercise.
We discussed possibilities.
I was just taking the grass for you.
You had no right to do such a thing without consulting me first.
I have every right. The situation is absolutely impossible, and you know it.
I can't see why you can't be a little more friendly towards Elvira, and then we might have quite a jolly time.
I have no wish to have a jolly time with Elvira.
She's certainly bad-tempered, isn't she? I can't think why you married her.
She's naturally a bit upset. We must make allowances.
I was never bad-tempered, though, was I, darling? Not even when you were beastly to me.
I was never beastly to you.
Where is Elvira at the moment?
In the chair by the table.
Now look here, Elvira. I won't call you Elvira, and I never will go on calling you Mrs. Carmine all the time. It sounds too silly.
I don't see why.
Did she say anything?
She said she'd like nothing better.
You really are sweet, Charles, darling. I worship you.
I wish to be completely honest with you, Elvira.
Hold on to your hats,
I
boys.
admit I did ask Madame Arcadi here with a view of giving you exercise, and I think that if you were in my position, you would have done exactly the same thing, wouldn't you?
I shouldn't have done it so obviously.
What did she say?
Nothing. She just nodded and smiled.
Thank you, Elvira. That's very generous of you. I would really so much rather that there were no misunderstandings between us.
That's perfectly sensible, Ruth. I agree entirely.
I would like, though, before we go any further, to ask you a frank question. Why did you really come here? I can't see how you could hope to achieve anything by it besides the immediate joke of making Charles into a sort of astro-bigamist.
I came because now Charles's love tugged and tugged and tugged at me. Didn't it, my sweet?
What did she say?
She said she came because she wanted to see me again.
Well, she's done that now, hasn't she?
Oh, we can't be inhospitable, Ruth.
I have no wish to be inhospitable, but I should like to know just how long you intend to stay, Elvira.
I don't know. I really don't know. Isn't it awful?
She says she doesn't know.
Surely that's a little inconsiderate.
Didn't the old spiritualist have any constructive ideas about getting rid of me?
What did Madame Arcadi say?
She said she couldn't do a thing.
Hooray!
We shall soon adjust ourselves, dear. I can't see why in the end we can't get a great deal of fun out of this.
Fun. Charles, how can you? You must be out of your mind!
I thought I was at first. Oh, but now I must say I'm beginning to enjoy myself.
Charles!
Charles! She's off again.
Elvira, you must not be so callous. Try to see her point of view a little.
I suppose she said something insulting?
No, dear, she did nothing of the sort.
Now look here, Elvira.
She's over by the window now.
Why the hell can't she stay in the same place?
Temper again. My poor Charles, what a terrible life you must lead.
Do shut up, darling. You'll only make everything worse.
Who was that darling addressed to, her or me?
Both of you.
This is intolerable.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't get into another state.
I've been doing my level best to control myself ever since yesterday evening, and I'm damned if I'm going to do it anymore. The strain is too much. She has the advantage of being able to say whatever she pleases without me being able to hear her. But she can hear me all right without any modified interpreting.
Oh, modified interpreting. I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. You haven't once told me what she really said. You wouldn't dare. Judging from her picture, she's the type that use the most unpleasant language.
Ruth, you're not to talk like that.
I've been making polite conversation all through dinner last night and breakfast and lunch today, and it's been a nightmare, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't like Elvira any more than she likes me, and what's more, I'm certain that I never could have, dead or alive. If, since her untimely arrival here the other evening, she had shown the slightest sign of good manners, the slightest sign of breeding, I might have felt differently towards her, but all she has done is create mischief between us and have private jokes with you against me. I'm going up to my bed now, and I shall have my dinner on the tray, so you and she can have the house to yourselves to joke and gossip to your heart's content. First thing in the morning, I'm going to the Psychical Research Society, and if they fail me, I shall go straight to the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Ruth?
Oh, let her go. She'll calm down later on.
It's generally unlike her to behave like this. She's generally so equable.
No, she isn't. Not really. Her mouth gives her away. It's a horrid mouth, Charles.
Her mouth's got nothing to do with it. I resent you talking about her as though she were a horse.
Do you love her?
Of course I do.
As much as you love me.
Don't be so silly. It's entirely different.
I'm so glad. Nothing could have ever been quite the same, could it?
You always behave very badly.
No, Charles.
I'm going up to talk to her.
cowardly custard.
Don't be idiotic. I must be at least a little nice and sympathetic to her.
I don't see why, really. If she said I'm being disagreeable, I should just let her go and get on with it.
Well, she's having a hard time. It's been it's hard.
She should learn to be more adaptable.
She will in time. It's been a shock.
Has it been a shock for you too, darling?
Of course it has. What do you expect?
A nice shock.
What do you want, Elvira?
Want? I don't know what you mean.
Whenever you are so overpoweringly demure, it usually meant that you wanted something.
It's horrid of you to be so suspicious. All I want is to be with you.
Well, you are.
I mean alone, darling. If you go up and pamper Ruth and smarm her over, she'll probably come flouncing down the stairs again, and our lovely quiet evening together will be spoiled.
You're incorrigibly selfish.
Well, I haven't seen you for 7 years. It's only natural that I should want just a little time alone with you. To talk over old times. I'll let you go up if you really think it's your duty.
Of course it is.
Then I don't mind.
You're disgraceful, Elvira.
You won't be gone for long, will you? Come down and get a suit.
I shall dress for dinner while I'm upstairs. You can read the Tatler if you like.
Darling, you don't have to dress for me.
I always dress for dinner.
What are you having? She'd like to watch you eat something really delicious.
Be a good girl now. You can play the gramophone if you like.
Thank you, Charles.
I do sympathize with you. Really, I do. It's certainly been quite a chapter of accidents, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
That happens sometimes, you know. Everything seems to go wrong all at once, exactly as though there were some evil forces at work. I remember once George and I went away for a fortnight's holiday not long after we were married. We were dogged with bad luck from beginning to end. The weather was vile. George sprained his ankle. I caught a cold and had to stay in bed for 2 days. And to crown everything, the lamp in his sitting room fell over and set fire to the treatise George had written on hyperplasia of the abdominal glands.
How dreadful.
We had to read the whole thing over, every last word.
Are you sure you wouldn't like a cocktail or some sherry or anything?
Oh, no thank you. Really not. George will be down any minute. We've got to go like lightning. We were supposed to be at the Wilmots at 7, and it's nearly that now.
I think I should have some sherry. I feel I need it.
Don't worry about your husband's arm, Mrs. Condamine. I'm sure it's only a sprain.
It's not his arm that I'm worried about.
And I'm sure Edith will be up and about again in a few days.
My cook gave notice this morning.
Well, really? Servants are awful, aren't they? Not a shred of gratitude. At the first sign of trouble, they run out on you like rats leaving a sinking ship.
I can't say that I feel your simile was entirely fortunate, Mrs. Bradman.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Really, I didn't.
Nothing to worry about, Mrs. Condamine. It's only a slight sprain.
I'm so relieved.
You made a good deal of fuss when I examined it. Men are such worse patients than women, you know. Particularly high-strung, like your husband.
Is he highly strung?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've been meaning to talk to you about this. He's been overworking.
Overworking?
Yes, as a matter of fact, he's in a nervous condition. Nothing serious, you understand.
Well, how do you mean?
I know the symptoms. Of course, his fall might have had something to do with it, but I should certainly advise a complete rest for a couple of weeks.
Do you mean that he ought to go away?
I do. In cases like this, a change of atmospheres can work wonders.
Well, what symptoms did you notice?
Oh, nothing to be unduly alarmed about. certain air of strain, an inability to focus his eyes on the person he's talking to. A few rather marked irrelevancies in his conversation.
I see. Can you remember any specific example?
Oh, what on earth are you doing in the bathroom? And then, a little later, when I was writing him his prescription, he suddenly shut up. For God's sakes, behave yourself!
How extraordinary!
He often goes on like that, particularly when he's immersed in writing a new book.
I'm not in the least bit perturbed by it, but I do think that arresting a change would be a good idea.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Would you like some sherry?
No, thank you. We really must be off.
How is Courtney?
She's all right. She's still recovering from the concussion.
It is funny, isn't it? That your housemaid and your husband should fall down on the same day? Isn't it?
Yes, if that sort of thing amuses you.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that, Mrs. Condamine.
Come along, Violet. You're talking too much as usual.
Oh, you are horrid, George. Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine.
Goodbye.
I'll pop in sometime tomorrow morning and have a look at both patients.
Thank you so much.
Well, how does it feel?
All right.
It's only a slight sprain, you know.
Is the stamp sling really essential?
Yes, it's a wise precaution. It will keep you from using your left hand until it's absolutely necessary.
I had intended to drive it to Folkestone this evening.
It would be much better if you did it.
It's extremely inconvenient.
You can perfectly easily wait and go tomorrow, Charles.
I can't stand another one of these dreary evenings at home, Charles. It'll drive me nutty. And I haven't seen a movie in 7 years.
Let me be the first to congratulate you. What's that, old man?
Charles, try to be sensible, I implore you.
Sorry.
I forgot.
You can drive the car if you promise to go slowly and carefully. Your gear change is on the right, isn't it?
Yes.
We'll use your left hand as little as possible.
All right.
You'd much better go tomorrow.
Couldn't you drive him in?
I'm afraid not. There's so very much to do around the house, and of course there's Edith to be attended to.
Well, I'll leave you to fight out amongst yourselves. But remember, if you do insist on going, careful, Dozen. The roads are slippery now. Come along, Violet.
Goodbye again. Goodbye, Mr. Condamine.
Goodbye.
You really are insufferable, Elvira. Surely you could wait to go to the movies another time. And stop behaving like a schoolgirl. You're old enough to know better.
What?
I was talking to Elvira.
She isn't here.
She was a moment ago. She threw these roses at me.
She's been very high-spirited lately. I know this mood of old. It usually meant she was up to something.
You're sure she isn't here?
Quite sure.
I want to talk to you about something.
Oh, God.
I must. It's very important.
You're not going to start making scenes again, are you? You've been behaving very well for the last few days.
I resent that air of patronage, Charles. I've been behaving well, as you put it, because there was nothing else to do. But I think it's only fair to warn you that I offer no guarantee for the future. My patience is being stretched to its uttermost.
As far as I can see, the position is just as difficult for Elvira as it is for you. The poor little thing comes back trustingly after all these years of the afterlife, and what is she faced with? Nothing but brawling and hostility.
What did she expect?
Surely even an ectoplasmic manifestation deserves a little of the milk of human kindness.
Milk of human fiddlesticks.
That just doesn't make sense, dear.
Elvira is about as trusting as a puppet.
You granite, Ruth, pure, unyielding
And a
granite.
good deal more dangerous than a garden.
Dangerous? I've never heard anything so ridiculous. How could a poor, lonely, little, wistful spirit like Elvira be dangerous?
Quite easily, and she is. She's beginning to show her hand.
How do you mean? In what way?
This is a fight, Charles, a bloody battle, a duel to the death between Elvira and I. Can't you see that?
Melodramatic
It
hysteria.
isn't melodramatic hysteria, it's true. Can't you see?
All the talk of battles and duels.
She came here with one purpose and one purpose only, and if you can't see it, you're a bigger fool than I thought.
What purpose could she possibly have beyond a natural desire to see me again? After all, she was extremely attached to me. Poor child.
Her purpose is perfectly obvious. It is to give you to herself forever.
That's absurd. How could she?
By killing you off, of course.
Killing me off. You're mad.
Why do you suppose that Edith slipped down the stairs and nearly cracked her skull?
What's Edith got to do with it?
Because the whole top stair was covered in axle grease. Cook discovered it afterwards.
You're making this up, Ruth.
I'm not. I swear I'm not. Why do you suppose that when you were lopping those dead branches off the pear tree, that the ladder broke? Because it had been practically sawn through on both sides.
But why would she want to kill me? I can understand her wanting to kill you, but why me?
If you were dead, it would be her final triumph over me. She'd have herself forever off the damned astral plane and I'd be left high and dry. She's probably planning some sort of spiritual remarriage. I wouldn't put anything past her.
Ruth!
Don't you see how?
She couldn't be so sly, so wicked. She couldn't.
Couldn't she just?
I grant you that as a character, she's always been rather light and irresponsible, but I would never put her capable of low cunning.
Perhaps the spirit world has deteriorated her.
Oh, Ruth!
For heaven's sake, stop looking like a whooping spaniel and concentrate. This is serious.
What are we to do?
You're not to let her know that we suspect a thing. Behave perfectly ordinarily as though nothing had happened. I'm going to see Madame Arcadi immediately. I don't care how cross she is. She's got to help us. Even if she can't get rid of Elvira, she must know some way of rendering her harmless. If a trance is necessary, she shall go into a trance if I have to beat her into it. I'll be back in a half hour. Tell Elvira I've got to see the vicar.
This is appalling.
Never mind about that now. Remember, don't give yourself away by so much as a flick of an eye.
Look out!
What?
I merely said it's a nice lookout.
What's a nice lookout?
The weather, Elvira, the glass is going down and down and down. It's positively macabre.
I find it difficult to believe that at this particular moment, you and Ruth can't think of anything more interesting to talk about than the weather.
I can't stand this anymore. I really can't.
Ruth, please.
Has she broken out again?
What did she say?
She asked if you'd broken out again.
How dare you speak to me like that, Elvira? Charles and I have not talked about the weather, Elvira, as you so very shrewdly suspected. I should loathe you to think that we had any secrets from you. And so, I shall tell you exactly what we were talking about. I was trying to convince Charles not to drive you into Folkestone this evening. It'll be bad for his arm. You can perfectly easily wait to go tomorrow. However, as he seems determined to place your needs above mine in everything, I have nothing further to say. I'm sure I hope you both enjoy yourselves.
There now.
Oh, Charles, have you been beastly to her?
She just doesn't like being thwarted any more than you do.
She's a woman of sterling character. It's a pity she's so ungiving.
As I mentioned before, I'd rather not discuss Ruth with you. It makes me uncomfortable.
I won't mention her again. Are you ready?
What for?
To go to Folkestone, of course.
I want a glass of sherry first.
I don't believe you want to take me at all.
Oh, of course I do. It's just that it would be more sensible to go tomorrow. It's a filthy night.
How familiar this is.
In what way familiar?
All through our married life, all I had to do was suggest something for you to immediately start hedging me off.
I'm not hedging you off. I merely said...
All right, all right. We'll spend another cozy, intimate evening at home with Ruth sewing away at that hideous table center and snapping at us like a terrier.
Ruth knows perfectly well that that table center is hideous. It happens to be a birthday present for her mother.
There's no use defending Ruth's taste to me. It's thoroughly artsy-craftsy, and you know it.
It is not artsy-craftsy.
She's absolutely ruined this room. Look at those curtains and this awful shawl.
Lady McKinley sent it to us from Burma.
Obviously, because it had been sent to her from Birmingham.
If you won't behave yourself, I shan't take you to Folkestone ever.
Oh, please, Charles, please don't be elderly and grand. Please, let's go now.
Not until I've had my glass of sherry first.
You are tiresome, darling. I've been waiting about for hours.
Then a few more minutes won't make a difference then.
Very well.
Besides, the car won't be back for half an hour at least.
What do you mean?
Ruth's taken it. She had to go and see the vicar.
What?
What on earth's the matter?
You say Ruth's taken the car?
Yes, to go and see the vicar.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Elvira.
Stop her, Usman, stop her at once.
Oh, why, what for?
Stop her, go out and stop her immediately.
It's too late now. I heard her go a couple of minutes ago.
Oh.
Elvira, what have you done?
I haven't done anything.
Elvira, you're lying.
No, I'm not lying. What is there to lie about?
What are you in such a state
I'm
for?
not in a state of what do you mean?
You've done something dreadful.
Don't look at me like that, Charles. I haven't. I swear I haven't.
My God, the car!
No, Charles, no.
Ruth was right. You did want to kill me. You've done something to the car. Answer me. What did you do? Hello? Hello, yes, I see. The bridge at the bottom of the hill. No, I'll come at once.
Oh, filthy, low-down tricks! Oh, no! Stop it! Stop it, Ruth! Leave go!
intrusion, Mr. Condamine.
Not at all. Please sit down.
Thank you.
Would you like coffee or a liqueur?
No, thank you. I had to come, Mr. Condamine.
Yes?
I felt a tremendous urge, like a rushing wind, and so I hopped on my bike, and here I am.
It was very kind of you.
Kind? No, not kind at all. It was my duty. I know it strongly.
Duty?
I reproach myself bitterly, you know.
Please don't. There is no necessity for that.
I allowed myself to get into a huff the other day with your late wife. I rode all the way home in the grip of temper. I've regretted it ever since.
My dear Madam Arcadi.
Please let me go on. Mine is the shame. Mine is the blame. Had I not been so impetuous, had I listened to the cool voice of reason, so much might have been averted.
You told my wife distinctly that you were unable to help her. You were perfectly honest. Beyond the original and unfortunate mistake, I see no reason for you to reproach yourself.
I threw up the sponge. In a moment of crisis, I threw up the sponge instead of throwing down the gauntlet.
Whatever you threw, Madam Arcadi. I'm afraid there's nothing whatever to be done. The circumstances were a bit too much for all of us.
I cannot allow myself to admit defeat so easily. It is gall and wormwood to me. Could have at least concentrated, made an effort.
Never mind.
But I do mind. I mind with every fiber of my being. I've been thinking very carefully. I've also been doing a lot of reading over the last few dreadful days. We are alone, I presume.
Yes, my first wife is resting at the moment. The funeral exhausted her. I assume my second wife is with her, but of course I have no way of knowing for certain.
You remarked no difference in the texture of your first wife since the accident?
No, she seems as much as usual. A trifle low-spirited, a tad under the weather, but other than that, she's quite normal.
Well, that washes that out.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Just a little theory I have. In the 17th century, there was a pretty widespread belief that a ghost who had participated in the death of a human being disintegrated automatically.
How do you know that Elvira was anyway responsible for Ruth's death?
Elvira. That's such a pretty name. Has a definite lilt to it, hasn't it? Elvira. Elvira.
Madam Arcadi, you haven't answered the question. How did you know?
It came to me last night, Mr. Condamine. It came to me in a blinding flash. I had just finished my Ovaltine and turned out the light when I suddenly started up in bed with a loud cry. Great Scott! I said, I got it! I began to put two and two together. At 3 in the morning, with my brain fairly seething, I went to work on my crystal, but it wasn't very satisfactory. Cloudy, you know.
Madam Arcadi, I would be very much obliged if you were to keep any theories you have regarding my wife's death to yourself.
My one desire is to help you. I feel I have been utterly remiss over the whole affair. Not only remiss, but untidy.
I'm afraid the circumstances were a bit too much for all of us.
There is something we can do, however. I have a formula here. Here it is. I copied it out of Edmondson's Witchcraft and Its Byways.
What the hell are you talking about?
Pluck up your heart, Mr. Condamine. All is not lost.
Honestly, Madam Arcadi.
You are still anxious to dematerialize your first wife, I suppose.
Yes, I'm perfectly furious with her, but
But what?
she's been having a very difficult time lately. Apart from me being angry with her, which she didn't like even when she was alive, my second wife hasn't left her side for a moment. You can see how it's been difficult.
Your delicacy of feeling does you credit, Mr. Condamine. But I must say, if you will forgive my bluntness, that you are a damned fool.
You are at liberty to think whatever you please.
Come now, don't get on your high horse. Nothing can be achieved by that. I have a formula here that I think will be able to get rid of her without hurting her feelings in the least. All it requires is complete concentration from you, minor trends from me. I may even be able to manage it without fine down.
Honestly, I would rather...
Charles!
Oh, what on earth's the matter?
Oh, what's she doing here?
She came to offer me her condolences.
They should have been congratulations.
I wish you wouldn't speak like that, Elvira. It is in the worst possible taste. Madam Arcadi, allow me to introduce my first wife, Elvira.
How do you do?
What does she want, Charles? Send her away.
In what part of the room is she at the moment?
She's moving about rather rapidly. I'll tell you when and where she's settled.
She's the one who got me here in the first place, isn't she?
Yes?
Well, please tell her to get me away again as soon as possible. I can't stand this house another minute.
Really, Elvira, I'm surprised at
I don't
you.
care how surprised you are. I want to go home. I'm sick of the whole thing.
Don't be childish.
I'm not being childish. I mean it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I smell ectoplasm strongly.
What a disgusting thing to say.
Where is she now?
Over here, by me.
Are you happy, my dear?
Tell the silly old bitch to mind her own business.
Was the journey difficult? Are you weary?
She's dotty.
Just a moment, Madame Arcadi.
Please put her into the other room, Charles. I've got to talk to you.
My dear Madame
Hold on a moment. I've almost made contact. I can sense the vibrations.
Go on, Elvira. Don't be a spoil sport. Give her a little something.
If you promise to get her into the other room.
All right.
Yes! Yes! Again!
How's that?
Oh, this is first rate. It really is first rate.
I'm so glad you're pleased.
Please get rid of her, Charles. Ruth will be in a minute.
My dear Madame Arcadi, would you think it most fretfully rude if I asked you to go into the dining room for a moment? My first wife wishes to speak to me alone.
Must I? It's so wonderful actually being in the room with her.
I promise you, she'll be here when you get back.
Very well. Hand me my bag, will you, dear? It's on the settee.
Here you are.
Oh, you darling, you absolute darling!
How good is she really?
I don't know.
You really think she can get me back again?
But my dear
And
child,
don't call me your dear child. It's smug and supercilious.
there's no need to be rude.
The whole thing has been a failure. A miserable, dreary failure. And you know, what high hopes I'd started out with.
You can't expect much sympathy from me, you know. I know that it was your highest hope to murder me.
Don't put it like that. It sounds so beastly.
It is beastly. It's one of the beastliest ideas I've ever
There
heard.
was a time when you'd welcome the chance of being with me forever and ever.
Your behavior shocked me immeasurably, Elvira. I had no idea you're so unscrupulous.
No, Charles.
Stop crying.
They're only ghost tears. They don't mean anything really. But they are very painful.
You brought this on yourself, you know.
That's right, rub it in. Anyhow, it's only because I love you. The silliest thing I ever did in my whole life was to love you. You were always unworthy of me.
That remark comes perilously close to impertinence, Elvira.
I sat there on the other side, just longing for you day after day. I did, really. All through your affair with that brassy-looking woman in the south of France, I went on loving you and thinking truly of you. Then you married Ruth, and even then I forgave you and tried to understand, because I truly believe that deep down inside, you really loved me best. That's why I put myself down for a return visit and had to fill in all those forms and sit about in drafty passages for hours. Well, when you died before you met Ruth, everything might have been all right. She's absolutely ruined you. I hadn't been in the house a day before I realized that. Your books aren't a quarter as good as they used to be either.
That is entirely untrue. Ruth helped me and encouraged me with my work, which is a damn sight more than you ever did.
That's probably what's wrong with it.
All you ever cared about was going to parties and enjoying yourself.
Why shouldn't I have fun? I died young, didn't I?
You needn't have died at all if you weren't idiotic enough to go out in the river with Guy Henderson and get soaked to the skin.
So we're back to Guy Henderson again now, are we?
You must admit, you behaved abominably with Guy Henderson that night.
Guy adored me. Anyhow, he was very attractive.
You told me he didn't attract you in the
He
least.
could have gone through the roof if I told you he had.
Did you have an affair with Guy Henderson?
I would rather not discuss it if you don't mind.
Answer me, did you or didn't you?
Of course I didn't.
But you let him kiss you though, didn't you?
How could I stop him? He was bigger than I was.
And you swore to me.
Of course I did. You always making scenes over nothing at all.
Nothing at all!
You never loved me a bit, really. It was only after your beastly vanity.
You seriously think it was only vanity that made me upset when you went out on a punt with Guy
It
Henderson?
was not a punt. It was a little launch.
I don't care. If it was a three-mast schooner, you had no right to go.
You seem to forget why I went. You seem to forget that you had spent the entire evening making sheep's eyes at that overblown harridan with the false pearls.
A woman in Cynthia Chavot's position would not wear false pearls.
That was practically all she was wearing.
I am grieved to see that 7 years in the echoing vaults of eternity have done nothing to abstain your native vulgarity.
That was the remark of a pompous ass.
There's nothing to be gained by continuing this discussion.
You always used to say that when you were thoroughly worsted.
On looking back on our married years, Elvira, I now see with horrid clarity that they were nothing but a mockery.
You invite mockery, Charles. It's something to do with your personality, I think. A certain seedy grandeur.
Now look here, Elvira!
I never suspected it, but I laughed at you steadily from the altar to the grave. All of your petty jealousies and your fussings and fumings.
You were feckless and irresponsible and morally unstable. I realized that before we left Buckley Salterton.
Nobody but a monumental bore would have thought of having a honeymoon at Budley Salter.
What's the matter with Buckley
I
Salterton?
was an eager young bride, Charles. I wanted glamour and music and romance. All I got were potted palms, 7 hours a day on a damn golf course, and a 3-piece orchestra playing Merry England.
It's a pity you didn't tell me so at the time.
I did, but you wouldn't listen. That's why I went out on the moors that day with Captain Bracegirdle. I was desperate.
You told me you were going to see your aunt in
It
Exmouth
was the moors.
with Captain Bracegirdle. With Captain Bracegirdle! Oh, I should have known! What a fool I was! What a boy fool! Did he make love to you?
Of course.
Oh, Vera!
Only very discreetly. He was in the cavalry, you know.
Oh, all I can say is that I'm well rid of you.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. You're dead, and Ruth's dead. I shall sell this house lock, stock, and barrel and go away.
I shall follow you.
I shall go a long way away. I shall go to South America. You'll hate that. You're always such a bad traveler.
That can't be helped. I shall have to follow you. You called me back!
I did not.
Well, somebody did. It was hardly likely to have been rude.
Nothing was further from my
We
thoughts.
were talking about me before dinner that evening.
Could have very easily have been talking about Joan of Arc, but that doesn't necessarily mean I wanted her to come and live with me.
As a matter of fact, she's rather fun.
Stick to the point.
I think of what might have happened if I'd succeeded in getting you to the other world after all. It makes me shudder, it does, honestly. But nothing but bickering and squabbling forever and ever and ever. I swear I'll be better off with Ruth. At least she'll stick to her own set and not get in my way.
Oh, I get in your way, do I?
Because I was silly enough to believe that you actually loved me. That, and I sort of felt sorry for you.
I'm sick of these insults. Go away.
There's nothing I should like better. I always believed in cutting my losses. That's why I died.
Of all the brazen sophistry.
Call the old girl in again, send her to work. I can't stand this house another minute. I want to go home.
For heaven's sake, don't snivel.
Call her in again. She's got to get me out of this.
I quite agree, and the sooner the better. Madam Arcadi, would you please come in now?
Is the darling still here?
Yes.
Where? Tell me where.
Over by the mantel, please, blowing her nose.
Oh, my dear. My dear.
Stop her fawning on me, Charles, or I shall break something.
Madam Arcadi, my wife and I have discussed the situation, and we think it best for her to return home immediately,
Home?
wherever she came from.
You don't think she would like to stay a few more days while I get myself a bit more organized?
No, I want to go now.
I could come and be here with her. I could bring my crystal.
God forbid.
Please, Madam Arcadi, strain every nerve. You said something about a formula. Oh, what is it?
Well, if you insist.
I most emphatically do insist.
I can't guarantee anything, you know. I'll do my best, but it may not work.
The formula, what is it?
Nothing more than a little verse, really. Fell into disuse after the 17th century. I shall need some pepper and salt.
There's some pepper and salt in the kitchen. I'll get it.
We ought to, of course, have some shepherd's wort and a frog or two, but I think I can manage without. You won't be frightened, will you, dear? It's absolutely painless.
Will this do?
Oh, yes, I need little. Put it down, please. On the table. Now, let me see. Sprinkle it there, will you? In the middle, just a soupçon.
This is a waste of time. She's an absolute fake.
Now then, a few snapdragons out of that vase. There's a good track.
You know, Merlin does this sort of thing all the time at parties. He bores us all stiff with it.
Now then, the gramophone. We ought to have the same record as before, I think.
Don't get it.
Whatever you think best, Madam Arcadi.
Oh, only that Mr. Emsworth at the Psychical Research could see this. He'd have a fit, he would, really. Oh, don't start it yet, dear.
Now then, Mr. Conmine, if you would please sit down and place your hands downwards on the table. But don't put your fingers in the pepper. I shall turn out the lights myself. Oh, nearly forgotten. 1 triangle, 1 half circle, and 1 little dot. There.
This is an absolute waste of time.
Anything's worth trying.
I'm as anxious for it to succeed as you are. Don't make any mistake about that. But I'll lay you 10 to 1 it's a dead failure.
Now then, if your wife would be kind enough to lie down on the sofa.
Go on, Elvira.
This is sheer nonsense. Blame me if I get the giggles.
Concentrate. Think of nothing.
That's right. Hands by your sides, legs extended, a few steadying breaths. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Is she comfortable?
Are you comfortable?
No.
She's quite comfortable.
Good. Now then, Mr. Condamine, I may have to go into a slight trance, but pay no attention if I do. First the music, and away we go!
Oh dear, it's the pepper.
There!
Hold on to yourself, concentrate. Ghostly spectre, ghoul or fiend, never more be thou convened. Shepherd's wort and holy rite, banish thee into the night.
What a disagreeable little verse.
Be quiet. Shh.
Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anyone there? Aha, good stuff. Is that you, Daphne? I'm sorry to bother you, my dear, but Mr. Condamine would like to return. Daphne, did you hear what I said? Can you help us? Mr. Condamine, hold on to it. It's trying to get away.
Good God!
Oh.
Madame Arcadi, are you hurt? What on earth's happening?
She's in another one of her dance trances again. And I'm as much here as I ever was.
Good God, wake up, Madame Arcadi, wake up!
Leave her alone. She's having a whale of a time.
Madame Arcadi?
If I ever do get back, I'll strangle that bloody little Daphne.
So what happened?
Nothing at all.
Something happened, all right. I can feel it.
All that happened was that you fell over.
Is she still here?
Yes, she is.
Something must have gone wrong.
Tell her to do it properly, Charles. I'm sick of being missed about like this.
Be quiet, she's doing her best.
Strange, I feel as though I felt something in my trance. I felt it shivered through me. Once and for all, Charles, what the hell does this mean? Well, we've done all we can. I must say I couldn't be more exhausted.
It'll be daylight soon.
That clock has always irritated me. It strikes far too slowly.
It was a present from Uncle Walter.
Who's Uncle Walter?
Elvira's.
Well, all I can say is that we might have chosen something a bit more decorative.
If that really were all you could say, Ruth, I'm sure it would be a great comfort to us all.
You can be as rude as you like, Elvira. I don't mind a bit. As a matter of fact, I should be extremely surprised if you weren't. Why? The reply to that is really too obvious.
Will you two stop bickering for 1 minute?
This is quite definitely one of the most frustrating nights I've ever spent.
The reply to that is pretty obvious, too.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Skip it.
Now listen to me, Elvira. If you and I have got to stay together indefinitely in this house, and it looks unpleasantly likely, we had better come to some sort of arrangement.
What sort of an arrangement?
You two are not going to stay indefinitely in this house.
With you, then. We shall have to be with you.
Oh, couldn't you two get a cottage someplace?
You called us back.
I've already explained until I'm black in the face that I did not call you back.
Madame Arcadi said you did.
Madame Arcadi's a muddling old fool.
I could have told you that in the first place.
I think you're behaving very shabbily, Charles.
I don't see what I've done.
We all agreed that as Elvira and I are dead, it would be both right and proper for us to dematerialize again as soon as possible. That, I admit. We've allowed ourselves to be subjected to the most humiliating hocus pocus for hours and hours without complaining.
Without complaining?
We've stood up, we've lain down, we've concentrated, we've sat interminably while that tiresome old woman recited the most unflattering verses at us. We've endured 5 seances. We watched her flick herself in and out of trances until we're dizzy, and at the end of it all, we found ourselves exactly where we were at the beginning.
Well, that isn't my fault.
Be that as it may, the least you could do is admit to failure gracefully and try to make the best of it. Your manners are boorish to a degree.
I'm just exhausted as you are, remember? I had to do all the damn table tapping, remember?
If she can't get us back, she can't, and that's that. We shall have to think of something else.
She must get you back. She must. Anything else is unthinkable.
There's gratitude for you.
Gratitude?
Yes, for all the years we both devoted to you, you ought to be ashamed.
And what about all the years I've devoted to you?
Nonsense. We waited on you hand and foot, haven't we, Ruth? You are exceedingly selfish and always have been.
Well, in that case, I fail to see why both of you were so anxious to get back to me.
You called us back, and you've done nothing but try to get rid of us ever since we've arrived, hasn't he, Elvira?
He certainly has.
And now, owing to your idiotic inefficiency, we find ourselves in the most mortifying position. We're neither fish, nor flesh, nor fowl, nor whatever it is.
Good red herring.
It can't be.
Well, then why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go back on your own?
We can't. You know perfectly well that we can't.
Isn't there anybody on the other side who could help you?
How should I know? I've only been there a few days. Ask Elvira.
I've already told you it's no good. We got Cagliostro, Mesmer, Merlin, Gilderitz, and the Black Douglas in a row. They couldn't do a thing. The impetus has got to come from here. Perhaps Charles doesn't want us to go quite badly enough.
I most certainly do.
You must have a very weak will, then. I always suspected it.
It's no use arguing anymore. Wake up, Madame Arcadi.
Not another seance, please, not another seance.
Wake up, Madame Arcadi!
Hit her.
You might upset her.
I don't care if it kills her.
Wake up, Madame Arcadi!
What time is it?
5:10.
What time did I go on?
Over an hour ago.
Forgive me, but I must make a note of this in my diary. Are the girls still here?
I'm afraid they are.
How disappointing.
Do you have any suggestions?
We mustn't give up hope. Chin up, never give in. That's my motto. This schoolgirl phraseology is driving me mad.
Now then,
Now then what?
what do you say we have another seance? Really put our shoulders to the wheel, make it a real rouser.
Please, for the love of God, not another seance.
I think I could materialize a trumpet if I tried hard enough. Better than nothing, you know.
I don't care if she materializes a full symphony orchestra. I implore you not to let her have another seance.
Madame Arcadi, don't you think we've had a few too many seances? After all, they haven't achieved much, have they?
Rome wasn't built in a day, you know.
I know it wasn't, but I can't understand.
Mr. Condamine.
Chin up, away with the melancholy.
Madame Arcadi, before you go off into any further trances, I really do believe that we ought to discuss the situation a little.
Good. An excellent suggestion.
While we're at it, I shall have another one of these sandwiches. I'm hungry as a hunter.
Would you like a beer?
No, thank you, but not.
I think I'll have a whiskey and a soda.
Make it a double and enjoy yourself.
One day I intend to give myself the pleasure of telling Madame Arcadi exactly what I think of her.
She's doing her best.
Are the girls getting despondent?
I'm afraid they are, rather.
Well, we mustn't give up hope. We'll win through yet. If we're not careful, she'll materialize a whole hockey team.
Now then, Mr. Condamine, the discussion.
Fire away.
Right. My wives and I have discussed the situation, and they are of the mind that I, somehow or another, called them back.
Very natural.
I am convinced that I did not.
Love is a strong psychic force, Mr. Condamine. It can work untold miracles. A true love call can encompass the universe.
That very well may be true, and although my affection for both Ruth and Elvira is of the warmest, I cannot truthfully say it falls under the heading you described.
I should just think not indeed.
You may not know your own strength, Mr. Condamine.
I did not call them back, either consciously or subconsciously.
But Mr. Condon...
That is my final word on the subject.
Neither of them could have appeared unless there had been someone, a psychic subject, who wished for them.
Well, it wasn't me.
Perhaps it was Dr. Bradman. I never knew he cared.
Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Absolutely positive.
Great Scott! I believe I've been barking up the wrong tree!
How do you mean?
The Sudbury case!
What was the Sudbury case? I don't understand.
There's no reason why you should. It was before your time. I wonder.
What was the Sudbury case? I wish you'd explain.
It was the case that made me famous, Mr. Condamine. It was what you might call in theatrical parlance my first smash hit. I got letters from all over the world about it, especially India.
Well, what happened?
I dematerialized old Lady Sudbury after she had been firmly entrenched in the private chapel for over 17 years.
How? Do you remember how?
Chance! A fluke. I haven't done it by the merest coincidence.
Flip, what was it?
Wait, all in good time. I wonder, who was here during the first seance?
Me, Ruth, the Bradmans, and yourself.
Yes, to be sure, but the Bradmans weren't here last night, were they?
No.
Quickly, my crystal!
Here.
Damn the thing. Gives me the pip. Cloudy again. Huh, that's better. There it is again. I'm beginning to understand.
I'm afraid I don't understand at all. What's there again?
A bandage. A white bandage. Hold on to a white bandage.
I haven't got a white bandage.
She's too good, you know. She had to be in a circus.
Be you in nook or cranny, answer me. Be you in still room or closet, answer me. Behind the panel, above the stairs, beneath the eaves, waking or sleeping, answer me. Well, that ought to do it for I'm a Dutchman.
Do what?
Wait. For heaven's sake, don't let her shake any more of that garlic back. I'm nearly making sick last
Madam Arcadi, would you like the lights off or the gramophone on or anything?
No, it's near. It's very near.
If it's a ghost, I shall scream.
I certainly hope it's nobody we know. She'll feel so silly.
Did you ring, sir?
The bandage! The white bandage!
No, Edith.
I'm sorry, sir. I could have sworn I heard the bell or someone calling. I was asleep. I don't really know what it was.
Come here, child.
It's all right, Edith. Go to Madam Arcadi. Go on.
Whom do you see in this room, child?
Oh, dear.
Answer, please.
You, madam?
Go on.
The master?
Anyone else?
No, madam.
Look again.
Please, sir,
Come now, child. Don't beat about the bush. Look again.
Concentrate, Elvira, and keep still.
I can't. Do you see anyone else in the room now?
No, madam.
She's lying.
Madam, no, I'm not.
They always do.
They?
Where are they now?
By the fireplace. Oh,
She can see them. Does that mean she can see them?
Probably not very clearly, but enough.
let me go. I haven't done anything or seen anyone. Let me go back
Come
to
now,
bed.
child. Give her a sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich. I want to go back to bed.
Here, Edith.
Nonsense. A big, healthy girl like you refusing a sandwich. I've never heard of a thing. Sit down.
Please, sir, I don't understand.
You do as Madam Arcadi says, Edith.
I didn't do anything
And
wrong.
nobody said you had. It's
She's
quite all
been
right.
the cause of all this unpleasantness. I shall give her a week's notice tomorrow.
You may not be here tomorrow.
Look at me, Edith.
What is the matter with her? Is she mad?
Look at my finger, Edith. Have you ever seen such a long, long finger? Now it's on the left. Now it's on the right. Backwards and forwards it goes. Very slowly. Backwards and forwards. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock.
The mouse ran up the clock. Be quiet, you'll ruin everything.
Well, she's off all right.
Off?
She's a natural, just the same as the Sudbury case. Really is the most amusing coincidence. Now then, if your wives would be kind enough to stand close together, please.
Where?
Over there by you.
Ruth, Elvira?
I resent being ordered about like this.
I don't like this. I don't like any of it.
Well, I'm afraid I must insist.
It'd serve you right if you flatly refused to do anything at all.
Are you sorry for having been so mischievous, Edith?
Yes, madam.
Do you know what you have to do now?
Yes, madam.
I believe it's going to work, whatever it is.
Oh, Charles! This is goodbye, Charles! Tell me to stop for a minute. There's something I want to say before I go.
Well, it's too late now. You should have thought of that
Full
before.
of all the mean, ungracious vote. I stopped having grace girdle again, Charles, several times. I went to 400 in the place while you were trying to have it. I must say, don't think you're being great, but I'm
Because you can see it.
Splendid! Hurrah! I think we've done it. That's quite enough singing for the moment, Edith.
Shall I turn on the lights?
No, I will.
They've gone. They've really gone.
Yes, I think we've really done it this time.
You better wake her up, hadn't you? She may bring them back again.
Wake up, child!
Where am I?
It's all right, Edith. You can go back to bed now.
What? Why, it's morning.
Yes, it is.
But I was upstairs. How did I get down here?
I rang the bell, Edith. I rang the bell and you answered it, didn't I, Madame Arcani?
Did I doze off again? Do you think it's my concussion? Oh, dear.
Off you go, Edith, and thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Sir, whatever for? Oh, sir!
What on earth was that?
Golly, what a night. I'm ready to drop in my tracks.
Would you like to stay here? There's a spare room, you know.
Oh, no, thank you. Each to his own nest. I'll pedal home in a jiffy. It's only 7 miles.
Thank you very much, Madame Arcadi. I don't know what arrangements you generally make, but I trust you'll send your account in due course.
Good heavens, Mr. Condamine. No, I wouldn't dream of such a thing.
But really, I feel that all those
I
trances...
enjoy them. I always have, since I was a child.
Well, then perhaps you'll give me the pleasure of lunching with you one day soon.
When you come back, I should be delighted.
Come back?
Take my advice, Mr. Condamine, and go away immediately.
Madame Arcadi, you don't mean that.
There must be memories, both grave and gay, in every corner of this house. Also,
Also what?
there are more things in heaven and earth, Mr. Condamine. Take my advice and go. Pack your traps and go.
Madame Arcadi, do you mean to say that they may still be here?
Quien sabe, as the Spanish say?
I wonder. I think I'll take your advice, Madame Arcadi, and thank you once again.
Oh, it was fascinating, Mr. Condamine, from first to last fascinating. Oh, you don't mind if I take another one of these sandwiches to munch on my way home?
By all means.
Thank you. Not to worry, I can manage. Cheerio once more, and good hunting!
Ruth? Elvira? Are you here? Ruth? Elvira? I know damn well you're here. And I just wanted to say that there's no point in your hanging about any longer. I'm going away. I'm going a long way away, somewhere where I don't believe you'll be able to follow me. Despite what Elvira said, I don't think ghosts can travel over water. Is that quite clear, darlings?
You said in one of your more acid moments, Ruth, that I had been haggard in all my life. How right you were. But now I'm free. Ruth, darling, not only of Mrs. Winthrop Llewellyn and Mother and Elvira, but of you too. And I just wanted to say that I'm going to take this opportunity and enjoy it immensely. Aha! You were so silly, Elvira, to think that I didn't know all about you and Captain Bryce Girdle. I did. But what you didn't know is that I was extremely attached to Paula Westlake at the time. You're very clever, Ruth. I was more reasonably faithful to you, but I doubt it would have lasted much longer. After all, you're becoming increasingly domineering, you know, and there's nothing more off-putting than that, is there? I guess this is goodbye for the moment, my darling. And I suppose we shall meet again. But until then, I'm going to enjoy myself as I've never enjoyed myself before. Break up the house as much as you like. I'm leaving it anyhow. Nice work, Ruth. Get Elvira to help you persevere. I suppose we shall meet again one day, but until then, goodbye. Parting is such sweet sorrow.